I'm Sean Reynolds, the owner of Summit Properties Northwest and Reynolds and Klein Appraisal. Today I have with me Mr. Matthew Walsh, and he is from Legacy, I always butcher this.
Group Capital.
Legacy Group Capital, because I'm used to saying Legacy Group Lending, which was the old mortgage company. Legacy Group Capital.
Yes.
And Matthew's got a background in commercial real estate, and today we are just kind of going through the nuts and bolts of an appraisal. And I'm going to call this Appraisal 201 because Matthew's he's read a lot of our appraisals and he's looked at them and he's familiar with them. And you're probably more familiar with commercial than residential. And so this is kind of a quick, residential appraisal 201 session. And I'm going to be recording on Screen-O-Matic on the computer. So Matthew and I are just going to be looking at the computer, going through an appraisal, and kind of give you an idea of some of the theory we were talking about earlier on why the appraisal is what it is. So let's dive on in.
Let's do it.
Okay. So this is, we are starting from the very beginning. So up here we've got invoice. And so that's your invoice. And what I did is I went sample appraisal here, just so we get any of the confidential information out of it. And so there's where your breakdown on the invoice is. On this appraisal, we had two appraisals that were kind of connected.
Yep.
And so we invoiced kind of line item there. And anytime you have a question on anything you see, just hit me up. You know what most all this stuff is in the subject section, and it's broken down into sections off to the side. The only thing there that might be screwy is the subject property currently offered for sale, or has it been offered for sale in the 12 months prior to that?
I should pay more attention to that when I'm doing my write-ups.
Yeah, because that gives you, and if the answer is yes to this question, then there will be, we got to put in the data source, offering prices, and details. So there's going to be a little bit of history there on that. Okay, and then if there's so here's the contract section over here. And that is, yep, I did analyze it, and if that pops up, then I got to fill out a bunch of stuff. Okay. If the did not is, then...
the purchase and sale contract?
Yeah, purchase and sale. Yep, so if it's an active pending sale,
right.
We'll fill out that. But for most of the private lending we do with Legacy Group Capital, it's not on the market yet. It's not sold. You guys do purchases. You do acquisitions.
Yeah, a lot of, or anything that's a bridge loan is we're basically giving them the money to get the property and then go through the permitting, and then we refinance them so they can build on it.
Right.
So yeah, and we don't. I don't think we've ever bought something that's been listed on market. That's how we get our deals.
Right.
Get them off market.
That makes sense.
Quick.
And so a lot of times for private lending like you guys, we'll indicate rehab loan right there.
Okay.
Instead of purchase transaction, because it's not a retail. So this section...
So what would you put if it was like they need 9 to 12 months to first buy the house, then demolish it, then get permits from the city, and then once they're ready in 12 months to finally go vertical, as we call it? What would that be?
First one... Is the appraisal subject to rehab, or is it just a straight acquisition? If it's just a straight acquisition, we might just go purchase transaction here.
Okay.
But for most of your guys' stuff and most private lending, it's a rehab loan.
Okay.
All right, so let's skip down to neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay, so we're in here. We just identify what neighborhood it's in, how much it's built up, whether it's rapid, stable, or slow. A lot of the stuff right now we're saying stable because that's kind of what's going on. If you get into slow and then declining property values, that's when we got some issues.
Yep.
We need to talk.
And
those are the calls that I have with Brent Ely, owner at Legacy Group Capital.
My boss.
Yep, your boss. And so demand, supply, shortage. And we've had a shortage now for several years.
I was going to say at least 3-4 years.
And marketing time under 3 months for most stuff. If it's a big upper end property, you might be 3 to 6 months. If it's a crazy property, over 6 months. Here's where we kind of outline the neighborhood boundaries, right here.
Okay.
And then over here we've got, this is the low, this is in that 100,000. So 430,000, that's the low. 1.885 is the high. 855 grand is the predominant value for this neighborhood.
For that neighborhood, okay.
Yep.
And what's the time frame that's based on? 12 months?
This is based on data that we sample right now today.
Okay.
So it's just in this point in time, it's about 430 low.
Based on all the
Yep.
an aggregate of all the listings.
Yep.
Okay.
So what we have is we have kind of a program that we run the statistics through, and it spits that back out to us based on MLS data.
Based on MLS data.
Yep. Okay.
Got it.
And so again, the low here is 0. There's new construction in this market. The high is 120 days or 120 years, and so this property has got to be in Old Seattle. Yeah, it's in Ballard. So you've got stuff from 1885, and that's why it's as high as 120 years in that market.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, old stuff.
Okay.
And the predominant was 55, so that's kind of just
That makes a little more sense.
low, high, predominant. And this is the land use.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. Oh, I see now. It's saying that 85% are single-family residences.
Yeah, it's a single family residential. 5% is 2 to 4, 5% is multifamily, and 5% is commercial. That is of the whole neighborhood. So most of that neighborhood is single family.
I know that we'll get to this later in the appraisal, but farther down, do you have a map of what the outline of the neighborhood? Because depending on where in Ballard, I could see there being a lot more commercial or not. This must be a certain pocket in Ballard.
Yeah, so it doesn't outline, but we can look at the map here. So it's 85th to Market.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You did say it outlines the map. Okay, so
Yeah.
this will tell me
Yeah.
the area we're
Yeah.
discussing. Okay,
Yeah.
that answers my
and so
question.
we could go right to the location map here and go 85th is right there, and then Market right there, Puget Sound there, and I think I can't remember what we used to the east, but usually like I-5, something like that. And
Okay.
so just Ballard in general.
Yep.
So we'll go back.
Makes
here.
sense.
And so this is all, and this is kind of giving you a little bit of the rundown. Primary residential areas, some higher density multifamily. The subject's located within the Ballard community. It's just, hey, here's what's going on. Here's where we start to talk about the specific market in general. Marketing time appears to be under 3 months. Subject was located above the predominant value range, predominant being 855. And you want to know that so that you know if the subject property is an over improvement. That's what lenders are looking for. If you say the predominant value is 855 and the subject value is 1.5, then you've got something really special in the subject property, and maybe there's
Maybe you've
something-
got a couple of units on the one site.
You've got something that
or-
makes it super expensive relative to that marketplace, and you never want to be too far over the predominant,
Okay.
because then you've got a property that's tough to sell. Is
Understood.
the theory.
Okay.
Not to say that there aren't comps at that price,
Right.
at that whatever price the subject is,
Right.
but the higher your value relative to the neighborhood,
The
tougher it is to sell. Yep. Okay, so that's that.
Okay.
Site dimensions.
Okay.
Site area, 5,100 square feet. It's rectangular. It's residential view. Here's your zoning description, single family residential. Is it legal? This is a big one.
Yeah. This one did come up in commercial a lot, the legal non-conforming.
Yep. That means it's grandfathered.
Yes.
And that's usually in an old part of Seattle, something like that. Is the highest and best use of the subject property as improved or as proposed for plans and specs? If this is a no, then you've got a tough loan.
I'm going to take a note on that.
Yep. So is the highest and best use of the subject property as improved or proposed per plans and specs the present use? Because if it's not the highest and best use, then you got something screwy going on. So highest and best use is a massive deal within the overall appraisal complex.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
Yep, and then we go into the utilities. Public electricity, public gas, public water, public sanitary.
How do you clarify whether it's on sewer or on septic?
Yeah, so we look at the tax records, we
Okay.
look at prior MLS listing histories,
Yeah.
and this is in Ballard, and this is on a 5,100 square foot lot.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's on a septic system, that's not really going to work, because you would have, after the footprint of the house, you're going to have about 10 square feet for your septic drain field.
But if it was, you would put other and then septic?
Yeah, we would check other and put septic.
Okay.
And then we would have a description of whether septic is typical for the market area.
Okay.
Because you might be in an area where there's sewer everywhere, but this is the last house that's not on sewer. It's still got septic.
Mm-hmm.
And for like FHA purposes, they may require you to hook up.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of going with that is
Yeah.
a lot of properties I deal with, they either...
They could hook up, or it's
Yeah.
cost prohibitive.
Exactly.
And FHA says that if it's cost prohibitive, take a guess at how much it would cost, and then we're not going to require the homeowner to hook up, because
Okay.
it's like, that's too much money.
Okay.
What was I going to say with that? Can't remember. We'll move on.
Okay.
Street is concrete, put the surface street if there's an alley. Flood hazard. You guys as lenders typically get a flood report if you want to,
Yeah, we do every time.
so then you don't really need this. What happens is you just need to make sure that this matches up with the one that you have and that it's the right zone, because otherwise you are lending in an area that's flood.
I wonder if this would be enough and maybe we can save ourselves a few bucks and not have to run our own flood.
I would
Check.
probably still run your own flood,
Okay.
because in case we have an error, it's your guys' rear end on the line.
Okay. Understood.
And some flood reportings are different. So we get a flood reporting from our appraisal software. You guys get one from FEMA.
Kind of like 3 different credit score
Yeah.
bureaus. Okay. Got
Take the
it.
average, kind of cross-check, confirm.
Sounds good.
And the other thing here on the sanitary sewer is if we're in question, we ask the owner, or we ask a real estate broker,
Yep.
hey, is this septic or is this sewer? Because sometimes you don't know,
Mhm.
because you can't tell. All right, so then, are there any adverse site conditions or external factors? This is kind of talking about the site. So this is C comment addendum. So then we go to the comments, and we've got some canned comments. Oops. Here at the beginning. So there's kind of a more breakdown on highest and best use, what it is. And if you want to read that, it kind of tells you exactly what the criteria has to be for highest and best use. So where highest and best use with lending, non-conforming lending fits in is that when you guys are lending on a structure that is going to be torn down.
Which is pretty common.
Pretty common. Yeah. There's no value to the home,
Right.
but you lend on it as a single family home.
And then, so this kind of describes, similar to what our write-ups describe, of what we're going to do with that once it's level land, what
Yep.
we're going to do with it, and then you guys would say what you think is the highest best use, and
Yeah.
most often they usually are very similar. You know, put this many units on it, or, you know, it's never going to be like turn it into a playground or something.
No. It's going to be developed to a higher intensity usage.
Perfect.
Yeah. And so here's the site comments we're looking for. It's a corner lot.
This will be helpful for my write-ups. I think the more detail, the more they'll like and appreciate, especially for auditing purposes. So I'll start using these more to pull info from.
Yeah.
Great.
These sections, yeah.
I'm
yeah.
glad you showed me the
Yeah.
addendums. Great.
And this is a proposed new construction, detached accessory dwelling unit to be constructed on the eastern portion of the site. And this has only really become an acronym in the last few years because density is so important in Seattle. Because you can build a home on like
Well, you've got dadus, adus,
Yeah.
seadus.
just a whole gamut of stuff in Seattle.
Yep.
They're not making any more land there.
Some of them I would just call closets.
Yeah, tiny housing. Okay. All right. So
All right.
general description. We're still in the improvements of the home. So here is how many units is it? One could be one with accessory unit. If it's more than one unit, then we would put it on the duplex, triplex, or fourplex form, which is a different form, different property. Anything more than one home goes in the multifamily form. And then we've got how many stories is it, whether it's detached, attached, or an end unit. So we're kind of in here now. How many stories, whether it's detached, attached, or...
Okay. Yeah, all of that's really, it needs to go in each of my reports, so I'll pay specific attention,
Okay.
especially this one right here too. But yes,
Yep.
this is good to know.
7 total rooms, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths.
Yeah.
So this stuff, don't really care about attic. Foundation, all right, here's basement area. It has 478 square feet of finished basement area. And we break that out differently than gross living area.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Which is right here, because nobody wants to live in the basement. Basements get discounted heavily,
Okay.
like by 80%. They're worth 80% less than above grade. Nobody wants to live in the basement. Yep. Monsters down there. So you got heating source. You probably don't care about that. Here is, now here's a description of the materials in the home. So some of these are new because this is a proposed remodel.
Yes.
So if it says new, then it's either new construction or it's proposed remodel. That's kind of how you know that there. If you have average minus for condition, that means you've got a real beater. You got a real fixer home.
Okay.
And in conventional lending, if you have average minus,
I won't do
nobody's
it.
going to lend it.
No.
Yep. All right, fireplace. Here's some of your more amenities. Fence, porch. Doesn't really have much of an impact on value, but we got to report it anyway.
Yep. Okay.
So let's go up to here. Here's your interior surfaces. These are your exterior surfaces.
Okay.
Interior surfaces, description. Here's your car storage.
Okay.
This doesn't have a driveway. If it did, we'd put driveway here and this. It's probably just jammed on top of another project, and you just kind of park in the street and walk up to the home.
Okay.
So let me get a little further down. All right, there's your appliances here. And here's your total room count, bedroom count, bath count, square footage. That's square footage above grade, so anything main level and above.
Okay.
Anything in the basement doesn't count.
Sometimes I see baths as 2.1.
Yeah, so Fannie Mae a few years ago decided to make it more clear, and instead of it being 2.5 baths, it's 2.1 baths,
Oh.
which means half bath.
Okay.
And
no
so,
shower.
Yeah, and so, yeah, sink and toilet.
Got it.
So those are descriptions there. So I'm on the UAD definition of terms,
Okay.
and that was condition. This is quality. Those are their quality ratings.
Okay.
It's kind of definition there. And then here's some more of your, that should have been, yeah.
What are we in the
it's-
military?
it's-
Oh no, I understand enough.
Yeah,
Let's
it's somewhere right in there.
Okay.
1 is half bath, 2 is 2 half baths, 3 is 3 half baths. That after that decimal indicates how many half baths it has.
Oh,
Yeah,
Interesting.
I know it's really confusing, and there was a lot of appraisers who were super confused when it first went out, and even more. It's a Fannie Mae thing. We can't control the form. This is how we have to report it. So, like, if I go in there, how many full baths? How many half baths? Let's go 5 half baths.
I get it. I get it now. I just never knew.
It's so confusing.
I was like, I would love to see what a 0.1 bathroom looks
Yeah.
like. You have
Yeah,
just a
show me
water
one.
spout?
Show me one. Yeah, what do you got in there?
Yeah.
Additional features. This is, anything that's kind of extra.
Okay.
And this house, it's got granite kitchen counters, walk-in closets. We're trying to put something in there.
This is going to help really add to the description of my write-ups.
You can take a lot of this information
Yep.
and it's filler, but it's important filler because it's what's there. Here is what I would probably, in your description. So this C2, you can look on one of these sheets and see C2. That means it's remodeled. So the kitchen is updated less than 1 year ago because this is made subject to this remodeling.
Okay. So we're
Yeah.
kind of looking forward.
Yep, we're looking, if all this remodeling was done as of today's date,
Yes.
that's what the value of this appraisal would be. Because
Understood.
that's what you guys asked us to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so here's a little description of this appraisal is made subject to the completion of the following updating: new roof, new windows, and we break it down. So that's
Okay.
why we got to get a bid of the remodeling you're going to do,
Yeah.
so we can put it in our appraisal, and so then we have an idea of the level of updating.
And I am the guy that transposes the budgets onto the form we send you. So if you ever have a question,
Okay.
you can refer to me.
Okay, hit you up for that.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Are there any physical deficiencies or adverse conditions that affect
What would be an example?
right next to a freeway? Or how about structural? There is
Sinking
an
foundation.
oil field underneath the subject.
Mm.
Something crazy like that. And if
Okay.
you have something in here, the roof is caving in. That's a physical deficiency.
Okay.
Adverse condition. Something, house is next to massive overhead power lines that have
Okay.
been known to cause cancer.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
Those would make it very difficult to land on. Like,
Unless you're legacy.
yeah. What's the loan to value ratio? We'll take it. Does the property generally conform to the neighborhood? And that's, yeah, this one does. It's a remodeled older home. And if you've got like an octagonal home, 8-sided home, or you got a dome structure, or you got a home that's underneath the ground and you got to, mow your roof, that's where you'd have something that does not conform to the neighborhood.
Okay.
So that comes up every now and then.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We live in a bomb shelter.
I'm already learning there's a lot more to these appraisals that I need to look at and pull out.
There's stuff in there, yeah.
There's
And
really
every
good
now and
stuff
then we'll
in
fill
there.
out those boxes, and people will say, well, you didn't tell us it was this. And we said, actually, it's in the report. Well, I'm so used to just blowing past that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's why I'm glad we're doing this.
So that's why I try and give you guys a heads up. When I send out an appraisal report, I try and give you a heads up if there's something in there that's like a zinger,
That's awesome.
because you guys wouldn't know.
Yeah, there's so many things we're
There's so
looking
many-
at
yeah.
that we just
Yeah,
think
and the appraisal is
things-
one part of your process.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of information here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, it's
Yeah.
a big part of the job.
And that's
we
why
do.
it takes so long. You can't just boilerplate all this stuff. You got to figure it out and you got to write it up.
Understood.
So there are 0 comparable properties currently offered for sale. There's no in the subject's neighborhood. There's nothing on the market.
Wow.
There's 64 sales in the past 12 months, ranging from $850,000 to $1.5 million.
That's another really good thing that I could add to the write-up. It's
Inventory.
There's currently not a single property in
No.
the neighborhood for sale. So that would be that could probably go under my strengths section.
0 inventory. Super strong market.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay, and so then this is all subject information over here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the market approach here. This is where you got the subject and you've got the comps.
Yeah.
This is the guts of it.
I'm
This is it.
pretty familiar.
Okay. So we pick the best sales and line them up kind of 1, 2, 3. These need to be closed sales.
Yes.
So sales price, proximity. I always look super close at proximity. How far away is it?
Okay.
Because if it's super far away, then it's not as relevant as something that's next door.
Right.
I look at the closed sales prices here,
Okay.
and then this is the days on market, DOM. This is how long it took these comps to sell.
Huh.
So this one and this one were pretty darn quick. This
Yep.
one took a little bit longer. Then here's your auditor number. This is the auditor number that's closed on the deed down at King County.
Okay.
So that's how you know it's a closed sale. If you don't have one of these in there,
Mm-hmm.
then you got to ask yourself why.
Hmm.
So, all right. So then we've got the site size, and then we make adjustments accordingly
Yes.
for differences.
Definitely.
So these are pretty darn similar comps because you're not seeing much in the way of adjustments.
Why is there no adjustment here? Is it not big enough difference?
There's probably, no, exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So this one's 4,000 feet. The marketplace isn't saying that there's a difference between this comp and the subject. So you can't subdivide any of these.
Yeah.
This is a little bit bigger, but it's kind of like, all right, it's 1,000 and whatever square feet bigger than that. So what? It's kind of what the market's saying.
Okay.
1,000 feet. In an urban market, there's typically very little difference. If this were 1,000 square foot lot, then there would probably be an adjustment because that would mean that it's 5 times smaller.
They care way more about location.
Yeah. Are these all in Ballard? And the answer is yes.
Okay.
So that's kind of the big deal. All right, so these are gross living area adjustments, and this would be made based on maybe, I don't know, $65 a foot, $85 a foot, something like that. Here are your basement adjustments here, and these would be maybe $25 a foot, maybe $30 a foot. So we talked about above grade being worth way more than basement. That's where that comes in.
No.
So this one
I'm
is
sorry.
smaller,
You're adding. Yeah, it's smaller by that
Smaller.
much, so you're adding that much
adding
value.
that to bring it up to what equivalent subject would
But
be.
because it doesn't have a basement, you're taking that out.
But this one has a 990 square foot finished basement. We have a 478 square foot finished.
Oh, got
So
it.
this one's bigger, it's superior, so we adjust it downward to bring it to the subject's level.
And did you say that those finished basement square footage is included in like the 5,100 or the 4,000?
No, that's site area. Yep, so super good question.
Oh, I am thinking
Yep,
about
so
site
this is
area.
so this
My
is
bad.
site area here. These are all sites. It's the building site.
Oh, that's why.
This is
I was going to
gross
say
living
1,000
area.
square feet difference in a house is a
Right.
big deal.
Huge deal.
Now I
Yep,
get it.
Yep,
Now
that
I
was
get it.
site area. I didn't make that clear.
That's okay.
Yep. All right, and so here's your bedroom and bath count.
Okay.
And so we made a big adjustments for gross living area here.
Now I see, because the subject is this size
Yep.
and the comp is that size.
Yep,
Got it.
yep.
Okay.
So those are square footage and bedroom bath count adjustments.
Okay.
You can see here that we've got no cooling, but here we've got central air conditioning, but there's no adjustment.
It's weird.
Well, in the Seattle market, how many days a year do you need AC? 9? 10?
Yeah, just about.
20 if you're just temperature sensitive.
Yeah.
So air conditioning,
It'd be
you
more
know,
useful to have an umbrella by your front
yeah,
door.
it would, yeah.
Which no one here owns.
Which nobody
but-
has because
yeah.
nobody uses them. Okay. And so then here is, these are the net adjustments.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the total. You add and subtract all the adjustments.
Yeah.
That tells you how much we actually adjusted to each of these comps.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives you an indicator of how either different or similar these comps are to the subject.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's your adjusted value. And this is what we look at
Yep.
a lot.
Yes.
So we don't really care about the sales price up here as much as we do the adjusted values here.
Okay.
And then on the next, there's probably, yep, there's comps 4 and 5. So this is where we put, so we skip a page. It goes first page of the appraisal, second page with comps, third page with your cost approach, fourth page with your extra comps. And that's what we're looking at here.
Okay.
And oftentimes on this page, you will see either active listings or pending sales.
But they both have auditor numbers.
Yep. So what we're saying here, remember there was no active listings, and there's also no good pending sales.
Wow.
Market's that tight.
Wow.
So here's some more of our adjusted values. So we take into consideration all of these comps, but these are comps 4 and 5. So these are probably weighted less. These are not as good as the first two comps.
And you can tell by the proximity is one.
Proximity is further away.
Yep.
Yep, and the older sales here, 8 of 18, 5 of 18.
Mm-hmm.
So super tight market. There's not a lot of listings on. So correspondingly, there's not going to be a lot of closed sales.
Understood.
So
Okay.
we run into that all the time. All right, so here is, this would be a prior listing history. If we had a sale, it would be indicated here. There was a prior sale of the comp. We have to report the last 3 years of the subject property and the last year on the comps. Any sales, and it kind of tells you right here, 3 years for the subject, and then 1 year, a year on the comps. Did any activity happen? Because back when the market was super hot, back in like 05, 06,
Yeah.
people were flipping homes. And if you
Yeah.
followed that history, you'd go, oh, something's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
So Fannie Mae just said, hey, we want to see all the flipping history. And,
Wow.
and you as the appraiser can explain all that.
Okay.
So summary of sales comparison approach, that's the approach we just looked at.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough room right here to explain it, so we'll look at that shortly here in the comment section. Here is, so we're basically saying the value indicated by the sales comparison approach, which is the comps up here. We said it's 910. And so 910, the cost approach, these are the 3 indicators of value here.
Yeah, cost,
market
income,
approach,
and highest
cost,
best use.
Yep, and income approach. And income approach in residential appraising rarely comes up because nobody buys these based on their rental income. That's
No.
more commercial.
That's right.
And this is the cost approach, which is an indicator of value, but it's not one that anybody really relies upon.
No.
Fannie Mae now says that the cost approach is no longer, or no, it's FHA says the cost approach is no longer required. But we put it in because if we don't, the insurance companies get really agitated because they have to do their own work. So we don't want to rock anybody's boat, so we still include.
What an idea.
Yeah.
Doing your own
Yeah,
work.
hey, where's the cost approach from the appraiser? We need that. And here we just said, this is a kind of a little bit of a summary on why we are where we're at. Major way was placed in the middle of the adjusted range, formed by sales 1 through 5. Due to the subject's updating and overall appeal, there's a range of value. He kind of came in at the middle, or I came in at the middle of the value. It's kind of an average home, average updated home for Ballard. So that's why we're at 910 here, and that's in the middle of 872, 976, 908. It's kind of in the middle.
Understood.
So that's where we're at. Okay, so here is page 3 here. You can put more comments there, but I like to put them on an actual comment page where you can read it easier.
I'm definitely going to start reading those in more detail.
Yeah, sometimes there's some what I call zingers in there.
Mm-hmm. Or stuff that just, if I were to put in my write-up, it just really adds an
it'll add
element
to
of
it.
detail that's like, wow,
Yep.
this is great.
Because you could take the age, you could take the above grade square footage, the basement, the bedroom bath count, the site size, put that in there, say whether it's remodeled or not, a proposed remodel, and that would give somebody an idea of, oh, this is what we're looking at.
Yeah, that's what I have to
Yeah.
do in every
Yeah.
one. There's a section for that, and then there's a section for kind of like a more general description of the location and stuff like that. You know, we want to know as much as we can.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
cool.
And instead of saying see attached appraisal, you can put a little bit of a write-up.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So, all right. So you and I were talking earlier about opinion of
Yes.
site value.
Yes.
So,
This comes up a lot when we buy one a lot, like this is a great example. Well, no, not this one, but say we buy like a 5,000 square foot lot that's got high density zoning,
yep.
and we can put 6 townhomes on it,
Yep.
and we project they're all going to sell for like 750 grand a piece.
Yep.
So when we do our cost to build, loan to cost to build calculation,
Yep.
sometimes it gets thrown off because I'll just say we got the whole thing for 300 grand, we got a steal on it. Well, I was taught that we should take this number and that number, the as is site improvement, so kind of as it is at the moment,
Yep.
and use that as our kind of like purchase price
Your
or
base calculation.
our
Yep.
subject property base value.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And sometimes this number is a guess because we won't have comparable sales of similar. This is supposed to be comparable sales, but in a lot of these markets, the market's so tight and there's no
land
vacant
sales.
land
Yeah,
sales. No.
never.
No.
Okay.
No. And so if the subject site is to be developed,
Yes.
and it's you're going to take a 5,000 square foot site and cut it up into 5 1,000 square foot sites.
Right.
We're kind of taking our best guess on the value of that site, knowing what the finished product is going to be. Okay, back off maybe a third, maybe 40% of that value. We try and find comparable sales, but it's kind of it's a best guess scenario, professional guess.
I mean, when you find a vacant piece of land for sale in King County, you've hit the land.
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
Jackpot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
it's
not a
very
lot
rare.
out there.
Yeah.
And so, and the rest of this is just numbers that we are guessing on that it would take to, rebuild this house today.
Okay.
And then we're backing off depreciation. Now, so we're saying it's 29% it's 29% physically depreciated. So it's been updated over the years,
Okay.
which reduces its depreciation, but that's a total guess.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like there'd be
Total
a lot
guess.
that goes into that number.
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
So this is kind of what we are guessing, that when this remodeling is done, this is how old this house would appear to the objective market.
Okay.
And so that is, so we're going to go back to page 1. So we are saying that although the home is built in 1907, it's effectively only built in 1998 because it was built in 1907, but it's got all this proposed remodeling
so
down
much
here.
is so much
But
is being done to it.
so much is being done to it.
That-
But there's still a bunch left from the original structure, so it's got some depreciation,
Definitely.
and that's reflected in, okay, we're going to say it's 20 years of age. So you take 20 and divide that by 50 years remaining. So this is the estimated remaining economic life. As
Is
an
it
economic
always-
product, this is going to last 50 more years into the future.
Is it
what we're
always
saying.
50?
No, that could totally vary.
Because tangentially, that number actually is a really big deal in commercial properties because you can't get a loan with an amortization schedule longer than its economic remaining life. So it's a big deal to pay
Yep.
attention to that number.
Yeah, yeah. And in residential, not as much. If you have one less than 30 years.
Less than 30. I was going to ask,
Yeah.
what's the range that we should be
in
looking
residential
for?
it's 30.
So if it's less than 30, we got an
Yeah,
issue.
I mean, but you guys aren't making 30-year loans either.
Right, but
That would be.
it's similar to like having a caving roof though. Like it's something
Yeah,
to
there's something going on.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so, we put all these numbers together, and here's what we're guessing it would cost to build this home, which is fairly close. This is adding in land, so the as-is site improvements with land and all the cost it would take to rebuild that home,
Okay.
and figuring in a depreciation.
Okay.
So that's that number. So you got the market approach was where the comps were. This is the cost approach. And then if you knew the monthly market rent, you could put that in there
Yeah.
and do a gross rent multiplier, which is the residential version
Cap rate.
of a cap rate. And so, maybe your rent's $3,500 and your, I don't know,
So it's worth $1 million for that.
that's where that comes up. But because single family homes in the Seattle market typically don't sell based on their
that.
rental,
Mm-hmm.
this approach is rarely used.
Yeah, especially in the deals we're sending you.
Right. Yeah, it's a non-factor.
And even if there is a tenant in there, they're going to be relocated shortly, so
Yeah.
it's irrelevant.
It's not.
Okay.
Yeah, and we might report the rent, but the rent is also going to be probably massively under market because the house is going to be torn down.
I was going to say,
Probably
it's also,
cover
the
share.
rent is irrelevant because we're buying the place to make it better. Or to
Right.
tear it down.
It's going to be renovated, and so
Okay.
rent is nobody cares.
Okay.
All right, if it's a PUD, planned unit development,
Yes.
if the developer is in control of the homeowners association and it's an attached unit, then you got to fill in all this stuff.
Ugh.
Yeah, which we don't like doing.
Mm-mm.
So ignore all this.
They're not fun to try to sell either.
Right. Yeah, different. Yeah, it's a different property at that point in time.
Mhm.
Yep. So you've had experience with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It goes tilt at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So there's your comps 4 and 5.
Okay.
And this is our certification pages. So this kind of says what we did, the scope of the work. I'm trying to get that Dropbox thing. All right, scope of work. This is intended user. This is kind of boilerplate, single family appraisal.
Mm-hmm.
You can read that at some point in time if you want to fall asleep quick.
I understand there's some stuff that has to go into each one,
Yep.
but I
And
really
then-
like the addendum pages.
And then did we sign it?
Yep.
Okay, date of the signature and report. This is the date we actually sign it.
Well, we just take the date next to the value on the page.
Yep, and that's the effective date.
Okay.
So the effective date could be, so if we're doing an appraisal of when somebody died in 2010, the effective date of that appraisal could be 1/23/2010,
Wow.
and then we sign it today. So all of our data would have to correspond to this date.
Okay.
These dates can be wildly different, and this is the effective date of the appraisal, and this is the date when we actually sign it.
Okay.
And they can be two totally different dates. State certification goes there, and then there's a little bit of a summary here. There's your value.
Mm-hmm.
There's you guys,
Yep.
property address.
Great.
So this is where, so in residential appraising, most people, you know what, we skipped over a section here that's really critical too. This appraisal is made either as is, it is what it is.
Right. Oh, I always
Yep.
look for that.
Yep.
Mhm.
Or subject to completion for plans and
Yeah, I
specs.
look for this,
Yep.
that, and that's like half of what I need.
And that is 3/4 of what you need on the appraisal.
Yep.
That's all you really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you care about as a consumer. That's what you care about.
Yeah,
It's
but the
right
other
there.
commentary is what really helps the write-ups and the due diligence and the
Yep.
and if we ever
Provides
get
some
audited.
more-
Yeah.
Yeah, it provides some more information.
Yeah, and if
That's good
anybody
stuff.
else, that's not one of us working on it wants to know about it, I'd like to have enough info in there so they know what we're doing. Oh, we're remodeling. Oh, we're knocking it down. Oh,
Right.
we're doing this.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's one of our jobs within the appraisal is to identify at least a few times in the report what's going on.
Okay.
It's, hey, we're making this subject to completion for plans and specs. Well, what are the plans and specs? And on that first page, we identified, hey, it's going to have new.
Okay.
And so we outline all that.
All right.
All right, so then we got down to the certification.
Mm-hmm.
Comment addendum. So we've got some boilerplate stuff up in here. So I'm a designated member of the Appraisal Institute. That's kind of the PhD of the appraisal world.
Cool.
It's a super hard designation to get. I actually have two.
Wow.
And so I have to put that in every appraisal that I'm on board with their continuing ed and a bunch of stuff.
Thing. You can use 2 fingers to scroll instead of always having to click over there.
Yeah,
Just trying to.
I'm old. Yeah.
I thought if you didn't know, it could
I
be
am
really
so ingrained to just go over here.
Got it.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. So a lot of this is good.
So we've got
This is important too.
Yep, the estimated value as is.
Yeah.
And so that is based on the site value plus the contribution value of the existing structure,
Okay.
because it hasn't been remodeled yet. So what's it worth as is right now? So this is something that you guys require.
It is.
Yep, as is.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You don't put as much emphasis on it, but
No,
yeah,
you guys need that number for your internal.
that's correct.
Yep, your books. Okay, so we got highest and best use. And then we kind of start to get into this stuff over here. And so we start talking about the subject property and search of the ballot area. And this is kind of just commentary going through the report, saying why we did what we did. And here's where your square foot, we were talking about basement. So actually we were at $75 per square foot. So this basement was only discounted like 25% or a third.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's that. Here's your reconciliation, and you're just kind of talking about why you did what you did. And here's again where middle adjusted range formed by sales 1 through 5.
Okay.
Karen provided assistance. That's where if you have another appraiser, you put his information in there saying what he did.
Okay.
And he helps out on a lot of this stuff. It's like a junior appraiser. It's actually, he's an appraiser trainee. He will be certified this month.
Yeah.
But he's got his
Mentioned
appraisal
that.
license, number in there. As soon as
Great.
he gets his log done and stuff, he's good to go.
Great.
Here we talk about the cost approach a little bit, but that is about it as far as the commentary, but there's a lot of stuff in there.
Okay.
So those 2 comment pages. All right, here's the compliance addendum. This kind of talks about our appraisal process, and what you're looking for is if we have performed services on this appraisal within the last 3 years, then we have to disclose what happened or why.
Okay.
And it's usually, we appraised it for the purchase, 2 years ago,
Right.
something like that. All right, so here's the sketch, and you've seen this before.
Yep.
Building sketch. All right, so, and we looked at the location map,
Mm-hmm.
plat map. You can kind of get an idea what's going on there. So because this is being segged off from the DADU, I believe.
That's correct.
He indicates the subject is this one and not the whole parcel.
Well, the appraisals for both. Oh, I'm
There's a
sorry.
separate
We have
appraisal.
two different appraisals.
Two different
I was like,
appraisals.
you're right.
Yep.
The projects for both. Okay.
Yep.
Yep. You're right. Okay.
Okay,
Got it.
and then we get into the subject photos.
Mm-hmm.
Front, rear, and street is standard.
Mm-hmm.
And then additional photos.
Okay.
You can see the deck is rotted out there, and you got a random ladder there.
Mm-hmm.
The house needs a rehab.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not in bad shape, but it's, pretty original.
Yes.
And so we kind of know that. It's like, all right, it is what it is. There is the basement. And then we get into the comparable sales. And so as appraisers, we have to drive by each of the comps, take a photo,
Okay.
look at the MLS sheets, make sure that they match up.
Got it.
Copy of the license,
Mm-hmm.
copy of our errors and omissions insurance. Have to carry that. And then our definition of terms, which we've already looked at. And that's about the guts of it.
Okay.
So what other questions or what kind of things would be helpful for you to know about this process? Or
To be honest with you, that was a lot of stuff that I didn't know was in there.
Okay.
So I'm actually just taking a lot, and now I know where to look. And basically what I just learned is there's a lot more detail and description about the existing property and what's going to be done to it in the neighborhood that will greatly enhance our internal documentation so when they go to committee for approval. So at the moment, I actually don't really have any questions. I'm someone that'll go back and think on it, and I'll probably email you a couple, hey, like I was remembering this, remembering that,
Hey,
but
you said something about this. What was that again?
that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But so far I kind of just want to make sure I digest all of that because there's a lot of really good pertinent information in there. Yeah.
And people ask, hey, why is the appraisal so much? Our standard fee is like $700 or $750.
Right.
Why is it so much? And it's because it's a lot of information to gather.
Commercial.
You got to go out there and measure the house. To get that square footage, you got to walk through. You got to take photos.
If it's in a commercial, like an apartment building or something, it's $3,000 to $5,000.
Yeah.
So,
And those are big, thick appraisals.
yeah, I know.
A lot of information. But a lot of those appraisals, it's boilerplate information. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, they file saved over the last report.
Pretty much, because I've gotten down really deep into them, and it's got the wrong address. So
It'll have the wrong verbiage because they forgot to cut it out of the old one.
Yep.
Standard.
Yep.
So there's a lot of information here.
Yes.
People never read their appraisal. They just look at those three things. They look at the value, whether it's as is, and the date, and then they move on. And there's a ton more in there that people can utilize.
Yeah, this has
If
been
you care.
this has been more helpful than I even expected it would be.
Okay, good.
I've learned a
Cool.
lot, and
All right.
and I think it's going to really. I think you might hear from Brent that my write-ups have gotten better at following this meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
This
okay.
has been great.
And that's what he's hoping for. Because anybody new that's been brought on to Legacy, I've kind of done this with. It usually takes a lot longer because I have to go through and explain things much more thoroughly, but you have a background of what you're looking at. You kind of know. So I was able to skip through this pretty quick because that took us, maybe an hour? Is that right? Yeah, it's about 3 o'clock. Did we start maybe an hour ago?
No, you're right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of information there, and you can learn a lot about a home based on the appraisal, but most people just never dig into it.
One of the main things I figured out is there are often times on a deal that I have a question that can be answered if I was to dig deeper.
Yes, and oftentimes we know that, but it's simpler for us just to answer the question.
Instead of saying,
Yeah,
Did
hey,
you
that's in the
read
report.
Yeah.
Hey, that's in the report. We just kind of go, okay, yeah, it's 55 is the number you're looking for. Send.
When I feel like
End of question.
When I feel like being a little sassy, I'll take a screenshot of the part of the report that answers
Circle
it.
it. Yeah, we could put a big red circle around whatever is in here.
Yeah.
But all right, well, Matthew, thanks so much for sitting through that. It was nice to have your perspective on, as somebody who's looked at a lot of commercial reports, but not necessarily residential, and who needs this information.
Well, yeah, and one thing that's really cool to note is, like, even though they're 200 pages, half of it you don't even need to know. I don't need to know about the dirt, you know, it's a mile away, or a planned Walmart going in, or even other, you know, you want to know about plans and stuff. But what I'm trying to get at is, even though these are just a few pages, there's a ton of information.
Yeah, they're cut down.
They're cut down. Yeah, it's very. There's a lot of information.
It's super interesting.
I should say useful, relevant information.
Yeah, it's good information, and this is. It used to say summary appraisal report up here, but we don't have that in there anymore. But it is, instead of it being a full-on supported report like a commercial report is often.
Yeah.
It's a summary report of what's going on, because we don't get into breaking down all those calculations. We kind of just are like, here's what it is, and that's what you guys in the residential end want to know.
Yeah.
What are the numbers? What's the numbers I'm dealing with?
Okay.
And so that's why it is what it is.
Yeah,
So
they're great.
That's it.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Matthew, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that
you
was
bet.
really helpful.
All
And I look forward to, you know, just calling up, talking more.
Yeah.
Talking more deals, talking about anything. I really do have a passion for this.
Excellent.
So
Okay.
I really appreciate
Well, look forward
it.
to working with you in the future.
Same
And
here.
we'll sign off here. Again, I'm Sean Reynolds from Summer Properties Northwest and Reynolds and Client Appraisal. Matthew Walsh from Legacy Group Lending. I got it right this time.
No, Legacy Group Capital.
Darn it, every
Legacy
time.
Group Capital.
Legacy
but we
Group
do
Capital. Yep.
real estate lending.
All right.
So, yep.
Thanks so much for watching. Bye.